Court reinstates Philip Shaibu as Deputy Governor of Edo State, declares his removal as illegal, unconstitutional, and gross violation of the Constitution. State Assembly appeals reinstatement, files for stay of execution. Senate wields a big stick on Senator Reinstatement, removes him as chief whip following complaints by the APC national headquarters over recent utterances by the Borno State lawmaker on the state of the policy. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. There's a lot to unpack on the program today, from governance to the polity to the politics, all of it. Some of the things happening in River State and in the National Assembly and the chambers of the Senate, as well as in the House of Reps, including what's been going on at the presidential villa, where today the president launched that NEL Fund application portal, where students can now apply for their loans. So we're going to get to that as well, which is one of our big conversations, as well as the Edo politics. But let's begin with some things that happened in the Senate today, one of which is that the Senate has passed for a second reading the 2024 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2024 and the Finance Amendment Bill 2024. Now, during the debate before the passage, a significant number of the lawmakers gave the backing to the amendment bills. President Bola Tinubu had in a letter sought expeditious consideration of an amended bill to the 2024 Appropriation Act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation to provide a sum of 3.2 trillion naira for renewed hope infrastructure projects and other critical infrastructure projects across the country, as well as 3 trillion naira to meet the recurrent expenditure for the year ending December 31st, 2024. The Finance Act Amendment Bill seeks to impose one-time windfall tax on foreign gains realized by banks in their 2023 financial statements to fund capital infrastructure development, education and healthcare access, as well as public welfare initiatives as contained in the Renewed Hope agenda. The bill has been referred to the Senate Committee on Finance and Appropriation to report back in 2 weeks. So we're talking 6 trillion in that regard. At some point, we're going to have that conversation, but not today. And let's also tell you that there was some mild drama at the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, today, when two senior advocates of Nigeria announced their appearance for the People's Democratic Party in a case filed by a coalition of CSOs to declare the seat of Martin Amaewhule and 25 others vacant following their impeachment. During today's hearing, the issue of representation continued with the party's national legal advisor, Kamadal Ajibade, SAN, contending that there is only one PDP and that he has the sole authority to prosecute on the party's behalf. This was, however, challenged by the lawyer sent from the state chapter of the party, Mr. Joshua Musa, SAN. Speaking to journalists afterwards, however, the PDP national legal advisor insisted that there is only one PDP and is in charge of prosecuting cases for the party. He further reiterated the party's position that Amaewhule and 26 other lawmakers from the River State House of Assembly are no longer members of the PDP. After taking arguments of all the councils, the judge adjourned the matter to 21st of August, or August the 21st, for ruling. Let's head back into the chambers of the Senate, where we started off from. The Senate has now removed Senator Ali Ndume as the chief whip of the Senate, replacing him with Senator Taha Mongono, representing Borno North. The SAC followed a voice note after the commencement of plenary, where the upper chamber took a unanimous resolution to the effect to effect the replacement of Senator Ndume following a letter of complaint from the headquarters of the All Progressives Congress read by the President of the Senate over utterances of the chief whip. They describe it as unbecoming of him as a leader in the House. Senator Ndume is yet to respond to that latest development.
We have the view that Senator Ali Ndume should honorably resign his membership of the APC and join any opposition party of his choice formally, instead of hiding behind the veil of grass activism His utterances, which are sheer propaganda and not based on verifiable facts, are unbecoming of a member of the APC caucus in the Senate of the National Assembly. We realize that the position of the whip of the Senate belongs to our party, and we are not opposed to whatever position the members of the APC caucus in the Senate may have. But we are of the opinion that distinguished Senator Mohammed Tahir Mongunu should immediately replace distinguished Senator Alin Dume, who is bent on bringing down the country.
So there are so many sides to that story. We've reached out to Senator Ndume, and as soon as he's ready to come and talk about this, he will talk about it. So he has made some complaints about the policies of the government under President Bola Tinubu, and some are saying he's doing it for his own personal interest. Some are saying he's capitalizing on the situation in the country and saying he can't access the president and all of that. But he's made his points about how he feels, and he felt that he wants to use the media, and this is what it has gotten him at the end of the day. So the Senate received that letter from the headquarters of the APC saying that his position is not favoring or is not looking good for the party. Apparently, if he wants to speak as opposition, he should join another party to speak as opposition. So that's where he got a big stick wielded on him. He literally escaped being a more punitive measure, literally. But when he's ready, we're going to talk about that. But that's the latest that's coming from the Senate, as far as the issue of Senator Alin Dume is concerned. As I said, as soon as we get his nod, we'll get him here to have his own say. But let's move on now to the issue that happened yet in Abuja. But this has to do with Edo State. The impeached Deputy Governor of Edo State, Mr. Philip Shaibu, has been reinstated by Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja. Delivering the judgment, Justice Omotosho declared his impeachment by the Edo State House of Assembly as illegal, unconstitutional, and null and void. The court held that the said impeachment was in gross violation of the provisions of both sections 188 and 35 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. Aside from restoring him to office as the deputy governor, the court held that his salaries, allowances, and benefits should be paid to him from April, when he was illegally impeached, until expiration of his tenure. The court issued an order of perpetual injunction restraining Governor Godwin Obaseki and the Edo State House of Assembly from stopping Mr. Shaibu from performing the function of his office. He also ordered the Inspector General of Police to immediately restore all his security details. But that is not all there is to that story. In the meantime, the Edo State House of Assembly has appealed the judgment of the Federal High Court, Abuja, which set aside the impeachment of the state's former Deputy Governor, Philip Shaibu. The State Assembly also filed a stay of execution on the judgment pending appeal. The Edo State House of Assembly had on Monday, April the 8th, 2024, impeached Philip Shaibu following adoption of a report of a 7-man investigative panel set up by the state chief judge to probe allegations of perjury and leaking of government secrets, but ended its sitting with the former deputy governor refusing to appear before it. Mr. Shaibu was impeached by a vote of 18 out of 19 members of the assembly that were present at plenary that day, while one abstained from the head count and voting process. Recall that the state governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, had, upon the impeachment of Mr. Shaibu, picked Omobayo Marvelous Godwins as his deputy to complete his second tenure in office with lapses on November 11, 2024. Well, so the Edo politics is going to hold sway today on the program at us. But that is not all we are talking about today. Let's bring you other political roundup stories. A big show. Stay with us.
The Edo State government says an appeal has been filed to counter the judgment of the Federal High Court, which reinstated Philip Shaibu as the deputy governor of the state. Speaking in an interview with Channels Television in Benin City, the Edo State capital, the special advisor on media projects to Governor Godwin Obaseki, Mr. Kroso Osage, says Marvelous Godwins remains the deputy governor of the state. The Director General of the People's Democratic Party campaign organization in Edo State for the September 21st governorship election, Matthew Idoye-Kenwe, has commended the Federal High Court Abuja ruling, which affirmed Asue Ighodalo as the governorship candidate of the PDP. Speaking to Channels Television in Benin City, the Edo State capital, Mr. Idoye-Kenwe says the PDP had always been focused on its campaigns ahead of the governorship polls. He insists that the judgment did not come as a surprise because the matter was in court to cause distraction.
The Lord falls your way. You thank God for it and you move on. I'll continue to encourage them. We must come together. We must stay as members of the same family, build our party.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has met with 134 accredited observer groups ahead of the governorship elections set to take place in Edo and Ondo states in September and November respectively. The groups include 124 domestic and 10 international observers. The National Commissioner, Sam Olumekun, urged observers to adhere to the Code of Conduct and warned against actions that could compromise the electoral process. He also advised them to obtain access codes from the Commission to complete online registrations and upload necessary documents on the INEC website.
I need to, however, bring to your attention that your accreditation may be withdrawn at any stage of the election process if it is established that your organization is violating the Code of Conduct for observers as contained in the guidelines for election observation available on INEC website.
A group under the aegis of Women Initiatives for Good Governance has appealed to all groups planning protests across the nation against President Bola Tinubu to halt their plans, insisting that such demonstrations will be detrimental to the well-being of Nigerians. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the national coordinator of the group, Khadija Yusuf, says the present administration is trying its best to reposition the country and appeal to them to explore all necessary peaceful measures to engage with the government and find solutions to these shared challenges.
As a call for the end bad governance, protest gains momentum. I urge you to channel your remarkable strength and wisdom towards dialogue, collaboration, and constructive engagement.
And the African Democratic Congress is calling on the National Assembly to compel the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct local government elections and scrap state electoral commissions. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the national chairman of the party, Ralph Mosu, notes that this will prevent rigging of council elections as well as enable the participation of other political parties to participate in the process.
The political process must be done so that our elections at that level will become more credible. And the only way to get it done now would be majorly take it away from governors, because governors appoint the state INEC chairman and they manipulate them.
All right, welcome back. We have two big conversations. The first has to do with the latest development as far as Edo politics is concerned. You heard it, that Philip Shaibu has now been reinstated as the deputy governor of Edo State. He was impeached some time ago, and of course, he's been reinstated. But that has been appealed, and a stay of execution has also been filed in the court. That's one hand of the conversation. Also, the president today launched the NEL Fund. That's this student loan scheme that we've been talking about for a while. The president has actually launched it today so that students can now apply for that particular fund as far as it's provided for by the federal government. We're going to have the managing director join us as well as on the program. But before I introduce my guests, as we explore this issue of Edo politics and what is going on with Mr. Philip Shaibu, let me bring you up to speed, if my producer can get me. Let's bring you a brief timeline of how we got here. So in November 2023, Philip Shaibu actually declared his intention, which is at the bottom of all of this. That's it. So if we hold this year, at the very bottom of all of this, he declared his intention to contest for office of governor, and that has been the bone of contention. In February, Philip Shaibu emerged as the PDP governorship candidate in a parallel primary, while Aswe Godale emerged from the party's primary at the Samuel Ogbomudia Stadium. We'll go to the next one. Another thing happened. I'm just giving you a brief timeline. Edo Assembly commenced impeachment proceedings against Mr. Philip. Now, the allegations bordered on perjury and divulging of government secrets. 21 out of 24 members endorsed the proceedings. In April 2024, the Edo State House of Assembly actually impeached him on grounds of disclosing government secrets. Godwin Obaseki, the governor, swiftly appointed Omobayo Godwins as his new deputy. Mr. Shaibu headed to court. So if we get to the next slide and we come to what is going on today. In July, this is what played out today. Court dismissed the suit challenging candidacy of Aswe Godalo. That's on one of the cases that was in court today for September governorship poll for lacking in merit over allegation of forgery of voter card. That was what he accused the candidate, or there are two. The Aswe Godali, he accused Aswe Godali of forging his voter card. But for his own gain, he won another case, the court reinstating him as Deputy Governor of Edo State. So he lost one, won one, noting that Shaibu's removal was illegal, unconstitutional, and gross violation of the Constitution. So this is how things played out. So just a brief timeline of the travail, as we call it, of Mr. Philip Shaibu. So let's get to the conversation. We're being joined in the program by two gentlemen, a lawyer, former commissioner for communication in Edo State, Mr. Andrew Nwata. He joins us from our Abuja studio, as well as Mr. Don Pedro Obaseki. He's the Deputy Director General of the Strategic Operations and Communication of the PDP Governorship Campaign Council. He joins us from London. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Jeffrey, good evening. Good evening to you at home.
Absolutely. So let's begin. You know, I haven't laid my hands on the CTC, which is every layman's copy to at least understand the English before we look at the inference. So give me your understanding, Mr. Nwata. You were in court with Mr. Philip Shaibu today of what played out at that particular proceedings today.
I want to just quickly correct an impression you gave our viewers concerning your timeline when this whole dispute started. Not November last year. It actually started late July when the deputy governor was on vacation. And because at that time he had started consulting, you know, in respect of his aspiration to replace his immediate boss, the governor, his aspiration to run for governor. And then there was this plan to impeach him. So he was in the US when that whole thing started. And action was actually instituted even while he was abroad. And when he came back, there was serious tension in the States. You know, there were different moves. Lawmakers were being lobbied to remove him. And I remember at that time, the governor came out openly to complain about the deputy governor's aspiration, that he was not aware, that it was through third parties he got to know that the deputy governor was interested in running for the office of governor, and even gave this impression that the deputy governor wanted to control the House leadership to remove him as governor. So after those denials and some interventions were made, the governor even made it clear that for him it was an affront to the deputy governor to have gone to court. So that was what made the deputy governor to withdraw his case on the premise that this issue of impeachment would not be effected, only for the thing to come up again this year after he indicated his interest, participated in the primaries. And for me, today is a day of victory for Edo people. It's a day of victory for democracy, a day of victory for the rule of law. And it reminds us that there's no alternative to the rule of law. And it is a former Chief Justice of Nigeria that said, in a situation where the rule of law is jettisoned, anarchy becomes the sole beneficiary. Fataye Atada William CJN made that statement. I'm happy that the mandate given to Shaibu, the Federal High Court today has restored it. And for me, what is significant is the fact that the court interpreted the phrase gross misconduct as used in section 188 sub 11 of the Constitution, where, of course, the Constitution itself defines it as a grave violation of the Constitution or, violation of any of its provisions. The fact that they said the deputy governor attached some official documents to an affidavit he filed in that case concerning his impeachment, the court said no, that even under the Freedom of Information Act, he has that right to disclose that particular piece of information as it relates to litigation. And that was not the basis to now impeach a deputy governor from office. And he actually brought out the motive. The court said from all the documents filed, the clear motive for Shaibu's impeachment was because of his political aspiration, and that it was a clear case of witch hunt, which the court condemned in the strongest of terms. And that the argument of the defendants that, section 188 sub 10 has an ouster clause, and for the benefit of our viewers, an ouster clause is a provision of the law that takes away the court's jurisdiction from intervening in a particular matter. In the Nigerian Constitution, we have two. Section 6, subsection 6C, which takes away the court's jurisdiction from interpreting provisions concerning the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy contained in chapter 2, and this particular provision, section 188. And the court says for you to activate the provisions of section 188 sub 10, which is the ouster clause, you must fulfill the conditions of subsection 1 to 9, the conditions precedent in 1 to 9, for you to now activate the ouster clause, which in this case was not done. So as I said earlier, it's a victory for democracy. The court has told the Inspector General of Police to restore his security, and in the eyes of the law, according to the judge, he was never removed as deputy governor because that impeachment was unlawful, illegal, unconstitutional, null and void.
All right, let me go to Mr. Obaseki. All right,
the hope of the common man by this decision.
All right, Mr. Obaseki, I would like you to respond, but I want you to piggyback from what he said, especially Section 188, subsection 10, which I believe is the premise of some of the argument of the lawyers against Mr. Philip Shaibu, that says that no proceedings or determination of the panel or of the House of Assembly or any matter relating to such proceedings or determination shall be entertained or questioned in any court. What is your interpretation of what is going on?
Well, I want to laugh. I want to laugh by just stating something. Our courts cannot continue. Courts cannot continue in Nigeria to give mercantile judgments. The court is not a marketplace. And Jeffrey, I don't know what I do. You keep calling me Mr. I go to school, make I not be Mr. I be Dr. Obaseki. Let me just say this quickly. In law, they say mutatis mutandis. All that needs to be changed has been changed. And I'm happy that my brother, Andrew, he gave you very lucid explanations, and I buy into that. However, in Section 188, subsection 11, in the definition of gross misconduct, it is in two phases. And it says gross misconduct, I think I can quote it, is a grave violation of the breach of the provisions of the Constitution or a misconduct of such a nature as it amounts to, in the opinion, that is key, in the opinion of the House of Assembly, to gross misconduct. So what this one gives a caveat for anybody. That's why I keep telling, in one of my papers earlier as a younger person, I wrote that this is one of the most, how will I put it, uncomfortable aspects of our Constitution, Section 188. And from 1 to 9 had been met, because when you were reading it, when you, Jeffrey, was speaking, you said 18 members plus 1, 19, had actually done the voting because only 20 of them were there. And one of them abstained, and the other person was the speaker. And in the originating accusation, 22 out of the 24 members of the House of Assembly of Edo State signed, and all the other provisions from subsection 1 to subsection 9 were followed almost to the letter, including the timelines. Why I said mutatis mutandis is this. Number 3, this is very key. The fact that the deputy governor did not even show up is not an excuse, and that is clear. So I don't see how this will stand in the face of higher introspection. Luckily, to say that the man is now the deputy governor of Edo State is fallacious, because there is a stay of execution and there is an immediate appeal, which means we are in status quo ante. So as of yesterday, the deputy governor of Edo State is mobile marvelous. As of today, the deputy governor of Edo State is mobile marvelous. And by tomorrow, until the adjudication on the appeal, he remains the deputy governor of Edo State. And Mr. Philip Shaibu, the Honorable Philip Shaibu, is the former impeached governor of Edo State. That is the situation as at now. Any other thing is playing roulette. That is just the truth. And I think that spending time with the Edo people in talking about what appears almost like a fait accompli will not be doing justice to the process in Edo State. And we cannot continue to be the characters in an unending melodrama. What I thought I was going to come here to talk about is actually the more important, more pressing, more existential issue of the assertion of the Federal High Court, of the candidacy of Mr. Aswai Godal, because that is very important to our people. It's existential to us. And that is what I thought I was.
All right, Mr. Obaseki,
not a fait accompli.
Yes, I'll come back to you. But I also know that it appears everything is emanating from the court. I also know that Justice Omotosho had also dismissed his suit by the impeached deputy governor. That is before he got his own favors, before he got his own judgment in his favor. Mr. Philip Shaibu and others seeking to void Asue Ighodalo's nomination as a candidate of the PDP in the forthcoming election. In the judgment, Justice Omotosho held that the suit, which challenged Ighodalo's qualification on the grounds that he allegedly forged his voter card, was status barred. Justice Omotosho held that the suit, being pre-election case, was filed outside of the 14 days allowed by Section 285, subsection 9 of the Constitution. Because I needed to posit that so that the audience understands all of the litigation and adjudication that went on to get all of this. So, Mr. Obaseki, all of the conversation we're having emanates from the court. But let's continue. It looks like let me stay with you, Mr. Obaseki, on this particular. Okay, you said I should call you doctor, so let me call you Dr. Obaseki. My apologies. Looking at the Constitution and the interpretation that the court gave, it appears that it agrees with Mr. Shaibu that none of the action of the State House of Assembly constitutes gross misconduct. Based on what you're saying, do you think are you saying that the court erred in law?
I am saying that the court, in looking at Section 188, subsection 11, would have taken into consideration the suffix part of that same statement, that whatever, anything, misconduct of such a nature as amounts in the opinion of the House of Assembly to gross misconduct. So if the House of Assembly has agreed within itself and all of them are in tandem, 19/21 and 22/24 have agreed that whatever Mr. Philip Shaibu had done, in their opinion, not in the opinion of the judge. Now, if it says that if there is a clear definition of gross misconduct, because it's an amorphous word, and it gives only the House of Assembly the right to determine what constitutes gross misconduct. I will quote it again. Gross misconduct means a grave violation or breach of the provisions of this Constitution, or a misconduct of such a nature as amounts in the opinion of the House of Assembly to gross misconduct. So once the House of Assembly have said even my carrying a cup of water is gross misconduct in their opinion, as stated clearly in the ground norm of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is our Constitution, it triggers Section 188. All right, Dr.
Obaseki, let me take it to Mr. Nwata. Because of time, Mr. Nwata, yes. I would like your response. He said that there's a loose end of that particular, because we also saw this in the case of Cross River, when it appears there's a lot of discretion to the House of Assembly to make certain decisions without necessarily looking for any backing. They may be waking up on the bad side of their bed and they can make a decision. That is perhaps what Mr. Obaseki is saying. Is that what the law means in your view?
Yeah, thank you. I want to first of all say it is wrong for Don Pedro, I don't know if he has been called to the bar, to refer to the decision of the court as one that is a mercantile judgment. And he was now trying to set an agenda for Channels TV as to the parts of the issues he will touch on. I mean, that is not just rude, but leaves so much to be desired. And having said that, I will clearly say again that when the Constitution used the word "or," it was used in a disjunctive sense, meaning that it gives two planes. The first plane talks about, defines gross misconduct as a grave violation or breach of the Constitution. That is for the courts to decide. Or, meaning that this is the second plane of the meaning, which in the opinion of the House amounts to gross misconduct. The court did not interpret the one that gave the House of Assembly discretion, but the word as defined by the drafters of the Constitution, right? And as such, considered what the House of Assembly now was not going into, the fact that the Deputy Governor attached a document to an affidavit. Of course, that cannot be a grave violation of the Constitution because it did not breach any provision of the Constitution. It was just exercising his right to a fair hearing under Section 36, and the court actually compared that provision with the provisions of the Official Secret Act. And what does Section 1 sub 3 says? It says that if any other law is inconsistent with the provisions of this constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. So the court was short of declaring those provisions of the Official Secrets Act void. And I want to quickly correct a very false and erroneous impression Don Pedro, a cousin of the governor, made on this TV, that there's nothing like a stay of execution. I left the court by 4 p.m. Our application for CTC of the road order was yet to be approved. So how do you apply for an order of execution? Don't you need a copy of the court order? What are you applying against? These are just lies from the pit of hell. And I must quickly say that the Edo State government does not belong to the Obaseki family. The deputy governor has been restored to an office given to him by Edo people. It was on your TV, the Commissioner for Information Edo said that the deputy governor is in office at the pleasure of the governor, and I corrected that very erroneous impression. He's at the office, he occupies that office at the pleasure of Edo people. The way Obaseki was elected governor on the 19th of September 2020, that was how Philip Shaibu was elected deputy governor. And that is what the court has said, and the court has restored the security. The Obaseki family cannot prevent Philip Shaibu from occupying an office given to him by Edo people and not
Mr. Nwata, if I may button.
We operate as a dictator. We operate a constitutional democracy.
Mr. Nwata, if I may button.
Our constitution and the judiciary.
All right. I do not want us to descend into personal arena. So let's stay with the legalese. But jumping off this, I'm going to ask this question. If you can answer me in 30 seconds so that I can also ask Mr. Dr. Obaseki on this one. Now, it appears to me, and maybe to some onlookers, that Mr. Philip Shaibu may be double dating. What do I mean by that? On one hand, he's pursuing this to reinstate his office himself back as the deputy governor as he was removed. Now the court has given him that judgment in his favor. On the other hand, he's also supporting the candidate of the APC, Mr. Mondok Bebelo, for governor. So what exactly is going on here?
As a matter of fact, he has a right to support whoever he supports, because it is lawmakers that lose their seats the moment they cross carpets. The Supreme Court resolved that in Atiku and the president of Nigeria. If the deputy governor hasn't been treated the way he has been treated, decides to support any candidate of his choice, so be it. America is where we practice democracy. Our own democracy is modeled on the American model. Romney is not supporting the candidate of the Republican Party. The heavens will not fall. And that is what the law says. The law allows him, Section 40, gives him the right to freedom of association. He's not a lawmaker. He was elected deputy governor of the state. In Nigeria, we remember Atiku Abubakar was in the APC. Obasanjo was in the PDP in 2007. The heavens did not fall. And that's a position the Supreme Court has taken.
All right, let's go to Dr. Obaseki on this one. So, beginning to wind down, what do you think is the way out of this? Because we're going through the legalese. I remember the encounter I had with the issue of the first case about there was an argument between outcome of the case as to challenging the process, Section 82 of the Electoral Act against Section 84, contending with interpretation by lawyers like you and Mr. Nwata. So what do you think is the way forward? Because this looks like this standoff may get to the Supreme Court, and this may be detrimental, if not careful, to the entire spectrum of the PDP, if it's not managed. So what do you think is the way forward? In closing.
Quickly, I'll just say that I want to ask Barrister Nwata. I just want to say this it's more important, not to come on public television and insult my family. That is not fair, but I will not be dragged in the mud with him. I'll let that slide. That is on the. I think that politics in Nigeria, because of the propensity to have very vague leadership selection processes, is throwing our democratic experience to the dogs. I believe that with the continued litigations, maybe we'll be able to now have cases where, based on precedents, all the political players will begin to play by the book. Now, emotion has little or no role to play when you are talking about the fact of the case. Balance of probabilities based on the facts and evidences that are available. And that is what this is all about. And I just want to say clearly, thank God you mentioned it. I was going to say it, that you cannot be working at John Holt and you want to collect money at UAC. That is the case of Mr. Philip Shaibu. But I think I will let that slide. I am not an advocate for the House of Assembly. Neither am I an advocate for any individual.
All right, Mr.
I'm
Obaseki.
here as an advocate for Aswe Ighodalo and then the greater good of our Edo.
Dr. Obaseki, I must thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but it appears that I know that we're going to continue this conversation because politicians, you guys know how to hold it all the way to the end. So I must thank you both, Andrew Nwata, lawyer, former commissioner for communication, joining us from Abuja studio, as well as Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, DG, Deputy DG, Strategic Operations and Communication, PDP Governorship Campaign Council for the Edo State governorship election. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we'll go on this quick break. When we come back, it will be time. If you're a student or you know a student or who knows a student, please call all of them to come on the show because the president has actually launched the portal that you can go and collect loan for your school fees and your upkeep. He launched it today. You can access it today. The man in charge joins me after this break. Join us again. Welcome back. It's now time to talk about that student's loan that the federal government promised and now has now actualized. But before I introduce my guest, let's bring you the news just in that the president has approved the appointment of Mrs. Didi Esther Wilson-Jack as the head of the Civil Service of the Federation with effect from August the 14th, 2024. Mrs. Wilson-Jack was appointed as Federal Permanent Secretary in 2017 and served in several ministries. And the new appointee will take over from the incumbent head of civil service, whose tenure will expire on August the 13th. So by next month, we're going to have a new head of the civil service of the Federation. Okay, let's now talk to our guest. Akintunde Sawyer is the managing director of the Nigeria Education Loan Fund. He joins us from Abuja studio. Sir, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me here again.
Absolutely. It's good news for a lot of students, and I can see you're smiling. Dream come true, finally, this can be effected. So in between all of this, I must thank you for your patience as well. In between all of this, we may be showing the audience, the live feed of how the site or the portal looks like that we can speak to. But give us a sense of what played out at the Villa today and what we should be expecting with this launch.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So what played out at the Villa today, we went to see the President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to really ask him to put his seal of approval on the work that we've been doing so far. And in so doing, really launch and permit the fund to begin to be disbursed to those who have successfully applied for this loan. And so effectively what we did today was bring in some of the beneficiaries, and there are two types of beneficiaries in this process. One is the institutions that will get paid on behalf of those who have successfully applied to go to those institutions, to attend those institutions. And the second is the students themselves, the applicants who have been successful in their applications, who will receive a monthly stipend. So what played out today was really the formal launch of the disbursement cycle, which really is the proof of the pudding, if you like, that this is really has been an exercise that we're going to follow through by actually creating a system where people get the value and the benefit that the President had promised way back even during his campaign. There were many stakeholders present today, including the President himself, ministers, heads of parastatals, and other departments of government who have a stake in this. And together we've all sort of been able to find a way through to really launch a program that will change many, many lives in Nigeria, and will give us better leadership in the future, and will improve the socio-economic status of the country.
All right, so so that we speak to a few facts. So we understand that over 100,000 students have applied. Am I correct, sir?
You're correct, yes. So over 100,000, to be precise, about 110,000 students have successfully applied. What I mean by that is that they've actually put in their applications. They've been verified as being bona fide and eligible applicants. But we still carry out a further verification to make sure that they are well qualified to receive these loans. But over 100,000, 110,000, as I said, to be precise, are likely to begin to receive disbursements from next week.
Okay, in your landing, I know you said it in landing, but I need it to be clear again so that we can take that as record. It's important to students. So when should they be expecting their alerts, either to their universities or institutions, or to their personal account for the ones that are for upkeep? When exactly should they be expecting?
Okay, so to be very specific, and it's important for us to remember that it's one thing to get approval for the loan, it's another thing to begin to receive the value. This loan is for people who are going to be starting at the institution afresh or already there. Now, if it's the people who are going to first receive alerts as early as next week are the people who are about to start a new session in the institution that they're in. But when I talked about the value, what I was really saying is that there are some of the 100,000, 110,000 students and applicants who are successful who will not begin to receive it until their session begins, which could be several weeks down the line or a couple of months down the line. But those who are starting now, or who started in the last few weeks, will start to receive value from next week, and so will their institutions.
So, for context, 100,000 or 110,000 have already applied. So this portal is now open for more persons to apply. Is there a limit to how much the fund can take in terms of this next phase of application that may just be watching this program and say, oh, I did not know, let me get on the fray?
Sure. So firstly, let me say that 110,000 have applied. We've actually got something like 170,000 who have registered, who now have an account, if you like, with NELFund. So effectively, you know, that's the number, and that is growing. The portal remains open. We're getting hits per day, or should I say registrations per day, in the region of 1,000 to 2,000 applicants. So the growth rate is phenomenal, especially considering that, you know, we haven't really done a lot of sensitization or advertising because we're really wanting to be sure that the system is robust and works well. And it's when we arrived at that point, we came to see the president, and now we're going to really drive the awareness and create even more opportunities for access to the application, which will then create more opportunities for access to the courses or to the education that we're speaking about.
All right, Mr. Sawyer.
Education, university, polytechnic, yes, and colleges of education.
Okay, let's also help the students. I'm also looking at it on my device. I'm sure my producer will be scrolling as well. So the simple steps to secure this loan, for those who are not very familiar, maybe you can walk us through for somebody who is coming for the first time to get a sense of how to, you know, maximize this opportunity. What are the steps? I see there are 3 steps here that I want you to speak to.
Okay, so, you know, the law says that you have to be a Nigerian to get this loan. The law says that you have to have admission at a tertiary institution that is owned by the government. That's the state government or the federal government. So essentially when an individual or an applicant, a prospective applicant, approaches the site, one of the first things it does is that it asks you these checker questions. Are you a Nigerian? Yes. Do you have a JAMB number? Yes. Once you've answered, or a matriculation number, once you've answered those questions, it then allows you to progress to another page, which then begins to ask you further questions, you know, BVN, and other questions that qualify you for for that. BVN, by the way, is because it is a loan. It has to be paid back through formal channels at some point in the future. So we need to be sure that those who are applying for this loan are in the formal financial inclusion segment of society. And if you're not, then this is your opportunity to go and open a bank account and become captured in that. Once we've cleared through all of that, so, a matric number or an admission number, the JAM number, the BVN, and the national identification number, it allows you to then open or attempt to open an account, which is called a registration with a NEL fund. Essentially, what then happens is that you get to another page where it says, you can enter your email address, and once you do that, we will send you an email with a link. When you receive that email, which presupposes that you will only get it if you've got the right email address, which again is a unique identifier. When you receive that email on your email inbox, there is a link with it, which then takes you back to our portal and allows you to open an account where you fill out your profile, your name, your address, your telephone number, and some other personal details, your bank account details. That dashboard, which you've effectively opened, stays with you for the entire duration that you have this loan for. So that means going beyond being a student all the way through to into your working career. It's a portal that you can interact with because you've got your unique username and your own unique password. You are registered with NEL Fund. And if you remember, I talked about 170,000 people being registered. You can stop at this stage. But if you choose to go on, you then say, okay, I want to apply for the loan. The next stage is that you are able to select the institution that you have been admitted to. You're able to select the course that you're going to study. And you get some information there about whether that is confirmed or not, whether the institution, from the data we have collected from them, recognize you as a bona fide individual who's been admitted or is an existing student of that institution on a particular course and at what level. And of course, the course fee, because it's a loan, so you need to know how much you're applying for. Once you are happy with the course fee, the course, the institution, the year of study, you can then apply for that loan. Once you've applied for that, it goes off and shows that you've made an application. There is a second loan you can apply for, which is a stipend, which allows you to receive a monthly fee for upkeep at the institution.
All right, Mr. Sawyer, if I may butt in.
So you in effect apply for two loans. One for the institution, gets paid direct. The other one is upkeep. The second is contingent on the first. So you can only apply for the upkeep if you're in an institution.
All right, Mr. Sawyer, quick questions as we begin to round off. From the federal government end, I think, how much was the 5 billion? Has that money increased, or what is the right figure that the pool that this money is going to be? How much is there now?
Okay, so look, our current exposure to students is about 35 billion. We've got much more than that. We've got much more than that sitting in our account that we can disperse. And we've also got some funding on the way. Remember, we're getting 1% of Federal Inland Revenue Service taxes, and we've also got the ability to receive investments from other sources. So the point is, 5 billion is not what we have. We've got multiples of that. We've got a 35 billion or so exposure. We can more than cover that. And that's why the portal is open, and we're inviting and encouraging as many people as possible to come and apply. The president has promised, as part of this, that whatever is required to ensure that students get these loans will be done. So I think there's real political will here, and I can assure you that it's not 5 billion. That we passed our 5 billion exposure, I think, in the first 10 days of launching the portal. We are seriously
we're totally out of time.
We're making promises and we can act.
But I'm happy, at least for facts. You say 35 billion so far in your exposure, and we hope it's going to increase. But one quick question, and 10 seconds if you can, I beg you. So a student's case study, if you're in year 1, year 2, year 3, final year for 4-year courses, you can apply every session, right? Is that
correct? Yes, you apply yearly. You already have an account from the first time you apply, so you don't have to go through all the steps again. But yes, you apply yearly because we want to make sure that you're still in the institution.
All right, so
and you're registered and accepted.
We will definitely have to invite
to the next year.
Okay, we'll definitely have to invite you in when they start getting the alert. The beautiful sound of alert cannot be matched by any other music, not even Wizkid and Davido. So I'm sure students like that. Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, MD, Nigeria Education Loan Fund.
I think we all like alerts.
We all like alert, exactly. Thank you for coming on the program.
Indeed. It's been a pleasure being here as usual. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
See you soon.
All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. Good night.